As things went along, old Duke got us together. He says, boys, listen, he says, I don't like this down here. It's bad. He says, in fact, if you're standing around talking, don't stay in one spot too long. He says, these sons of bitches are going to steal the spurs right off your boots.
Dortord, he loved High Chaparral. How did you get cast on that?
Well, I'd worked in the Outlaw show, and old Kent McRae, who became the production manager on Chaparral, he was the production manager on Outlaws. Then he went with Bonanza. When they started to cast Chaparral, he said, why don't you call old Don, see if he wants to come on as foreman of the ranch? And they called me and said, you bet, yeah. Because it was a good Western, really good Western series, probably the best.
It was cast so well, not just being on location. Henry Darrow as Monolito, I tell you.
Boy, wasn't he good?
Dortord said he was building the show around him because he said, I found this guy, I need to have a show that he can be in, and High Chaparral was the result. But Leif Erikson and Cameron Mitchell. Cameron Mitchell, now there's a guy who probably, tell us a little bit about Cam.
Well, Uncle Buck, yeah. He had his shoes, I don't know if you ever noticed them. The soles on his shoes were this thick.
So he walked at an angle?
Well, almost, and then he put fringe around him, trying to disguise. But the fringe was this long too, you know. And the outfit he wore, and his hair sometimes was red, sometimes it was black. He always ate with his gloves, and he was just noisy and you're doing a scene with him, he's all over the place, just grabbing you and touching you, and and he's just throwing his all kinds of stuff. It's tough to work with him. A good actor, and he did a lot of things, a lot of years, but he was kind of fun to work with because you didn't know what the hell he was going to do. You're kind of watching him. Maybe I'll get a little more film out of this just because I'm in the scene with him or something. Mark Slade, who left the show. He was kind of a goofy teenager, but he got a lot of fan mail. The girls loved him.
He was the troubled teen on the show, I think.
The troubled teenager, and Linda Crystal was
beautiful.
Beautiful gal.
And she was nominated for an Emmy, I think, every year of the show.
I remember when I was at the High Chaparral 50th anniversary. Henry Darrow made it there. His hair is white like most of ours are. And
it could be orange like Cameron Mitchell's.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So how's Henry?
Henry was great to work with. He was great, and he really helped make that show a good show because he was fantastic. And
I tell you, Bobby Hoy was a friend, and I know he did. He loved being on that show.
Bobby was great.
He's fun.
Bobby was good. I'll tell a quick story about Bobby. We went up to Big Bear one time to do a show that we needed the big trees for. Middle of summer. The place is just loaded with tourists. And so we had to double up in all of our rooms, which we didn't mind doing. Bobby and I are doubled up in one room. We just got to have a single bed apiece in this room.
Lucky?
Lucky to get them. And it's hot and everything. And so Kent McRae, our production manager, he'd have to get up about 5 in the morning, start making the rounds to make sure all the boys are on their feet because a lot of tourists up there, a lot of the bars up there, a lot of young ladies up there. So Kent would start making the rounds and make sure everybody was up. And so Bobby and I are laying in bed. It's warm. We're sleeping on our shorts, got a sheet pulled up at the waist high. We're awake about 5:30, and we're just laying there. We're talking to each other. I looked out the window, and I saw old Kent walk by. And I went, he's going to come try to wake us up. So I jumped out of bed and jumped in bed with Bobby. And I'm laying there. We're just shoulder to shoulder. We're waiting for Kent. We're a single bed, waiting for Kent to walk in and catch us in bed together. We'll all have a big laugh. And we're laying there. and Kent doesn't show up. So I'm laying, all of a sudden Bobby turns to me and says, "It's your move, pal."
Oh, man. You know, Don, you worked in 3 or 4 John Wayne films.
Yeah.
The first one just as an extra, Fort Apache, I think, 1948.
Had one of those, no, not Fort Apache. Oh, yeah, Fort Apache.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, that was...
I do the best I can.
You're doing great. I was an extra.
Yes.
Fort Apache. I think it was MGM I worked. I didn't go on location, just worked there. But I get to meet old Victor McLaglen. You remember him?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Old Vic. Oh, what a pleasure. He was an old man by then, but just to sit and talk to that old man.
And he'd won an Oscar for The Informer for John Ford in 1935.
That's right.
You know? People wonder why.
But just what a pleasure to just sit and talk to that old man for a few minutes, you know.
So later on with Duke's other films, Undefeated, you're in that.
War Wagon.
Yeah, War Wagon, Burt Kennedy. Man, is that fun.
We were, in fact, the Undefeated. We were in Mexico for about 2.5 months. And then we went over to Baton Rouge to finish the movie, to do the North and the South fighting each other in Baton Rouge. And that was in 1969, I think. And the Teamsters Union had just had that state buttoned up. In case there are any Teamsters here, it's changed a lot since then. And I had rented a car down in, have I got time to tell it?
Sure.
I rented a car in New Orleans to drive up to Baton Rouge. I'd got a day off. I went up to LA and I flew to New Orleans. I got a car and I'm driving up to Baton Rouge. And I pulled in the motel and 2 big guys walked over to my car and they said, "Mr. Collier?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Are you going to keep this car while you're here in town?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it." "Why?" They says, "Because if you do, you have to get a driver." I said, "I can drive my own car. Not in Louisiana. If you got the car and you're in the picture of it, you got to get a driver." So I said, "No, I'll probably turn it in." Then as things went along, old Duke got us together. He says, "Boys," listen. He says, "I don't like this down here. It's bad." He says, "In fact, if you're standing around talking, don't stay in one spot too long." He says, "These sons of bitches are going to steal the spurs right off your boots." And so we get out to do one of the last scenes, and it's a battle between the rebels are on a ridge up here, mounted, and we're down here behind the breastworks. We're going to kill these guys that come down the hill. And they got 5 cannons up there. And the rebels are mounted horseback. There's about 50 riders up there between these cannons. So they're going to ride down the hill, and we're going to have a war there. And I forget who coordinated that. Was that Hal? Did Hal do that? I can't remember. The stunt coordinator's up there on the hill, and John Wayne says, "Okay." He says, he'd brought riders down there, and he says, "Boys, mount up." And this old Teamster guy says, Hold it, Mr. Wayne." He says, "Don't mount your boys up." He says, "We got out-of-work Teamsters here. We're going to mount them up. They need the job. You know, they got families." And Duke says, "Well, I got these guys." "No." He says, "No. If you try to mount them, we'll shut the whole thing down." So Duke says, "Okay, all right." He says, "Mount them up." So these Teamsters they climb on these horses and they walk up the hill and they get up on top there and Hal's up there. And Duke says, "Okay, get them ready." Hal says, "Okay." He puts 8 or 9 guys between each cannon up there. He says, "You know the cue?" He says, "Yeah, Duke. When the cannons fire, they'll go, right?" "Yeah." Okay, so we're down there waiting with the guns, behind this brick wall. And by this time, Duke directing, and it was Andy McLaglen was the director, but he's sitting over there with Duke saying, "Okay, you ready, Hal?" "Ready." He says, "Okay, fire the cannons." Boom, the cannons go off. And my God, you couldn't believe the rodeo we saw. These horses were going all over the place, and these guys are coming off, falling down. A few of them made it. And they're supposed to be firing, they come down there.
So it looked like you hit them.
It looked like we're killing them. It looked like we had machine guns. Man, they were falling around, and finally, 2 or 3 of them got down the hill. And Duke says, "Cut." And he looks over at this union guy and he says, "What do you think?" And he says, "I think you better use your guys." And there was several broken arms, and these guys got tore up pretty good. I don't think they ever used that shot in the movie. I can't remember, but
it's like a rodeo. I've got one thing I want to go. Don's got to drive back to Arizona today, and he stayed over from the weekend just to do this show for us. So
got two new twin grandbabies.
Thank you.
These are great, just great grandbabies. Yeah, I got 14 of them now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Thank you. Getting pretty tough.
A lot of you know the Wyatt Earp movies and who played Wyatt Earp, but our guest today, Don Collier, played Wyatt Earp in a pilot.
Oh, my Lord.
That I'd love to know about. Don?
Oh.
Tell us about that. That was a pilot spinoff from Wagon Train.
Wagon Train. It was called The Silver Lady. And the reason it was called The Silver Lady is the lady is in a stagecoach and with a bunch of silver coins, bags and bags and bags of silver coins. The Indians attack, set the stagecoach on fire. The coins melt and all the molten silver gathers around the woman and she becomes the Silver Lady. And it was, I can't remember all the guys around. There's some good actors in it.
Michael Burns played, I believe, Morgan Earp.
That's right.
Denver Pyle was Old Man Clanton.
Yeah.
I'm not guessing.
Keep going.
Okay. And
Henry Silva.
I'll have to go to my notes. Wait a minute. I will actually have to go to my notes. I don't want to have to go to my glasses, though, okay?
I got something.
No, I'm good. I'll tell you who was Doc Holliday. This was such a shock, and I've never seen this episode. I'd love to see it. Henry Silva played Doc Holliday.
Henry Silva, yeah.
That'd be great to see.
And the old man with the old white-haired man.
Well, the old man Clanton was Denver Pyle.
No, I don't mean him. There's another guy.
My notes are sparse.
My memory is too.
But I'll tell you who played Anne Reed in the story, Vera Miles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man, she was great.
Cool. I'd
Vera
love to
was
see
in everything,
that.
yeah.
But
Andy McLaglen directed
He directed it, and you know who wrote it?
No.
Nobody knows who wrote it. Ozzie Nelson's brother, Dick Nelson, wrote that episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
The Silver Lady. It didn't go too far. we just made
But what a cool idea, and maybe it was too close to the Hugh O'Brien Wyatt Earp just ending when that was
It might have been, yeah.
And
I thought I was
that
fantastic. The rest of the guys
I'll bet you were. I'll bet you were. Well, you've been a fantastic guest, Don. I want to thank you for being here.
Had a good group. Nice audience out here.
Thank you. My name is Rob Word, and we love bringing these programs to you. We've got a lot more scheduled coming up. We post a new one every single week, and we want you to subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching.